The spring of 1988 was meant to be a hopeful and exciting time for 27-year-old Moriya Mitsuko and her 31-year-old husband, Shinichi. After years of quiet devotion to one another and getting married in 1985, they were finally preparing to welcome their first child, a baby boy whose arrival promised to change everything. Like most expectant parents, they felt a mix of emotions, happiness for the future, but also the natural worries that come with the unknowns of becoming a family. However, their hopes and dreams were shattered when a heartbreaking and deeply disturbing incident turned their world upside down. In March of 1988, Mitsuko and Shinichi lived at an apartment located in Tomita-cho, Nakagawa-ku, Nagoya City, Aichi Prefecture, Japan. Mitsuko was in her final weeks of pregnancy, and her due date of March 13th came and went. Her husband called her frequently when he was at work, checking that all was well as the clock ticked towards the delivery of their son. On March 18th, Mitsuko bid Shinichi goodbye as he left for work, beginning what seemed like another ordinary day. Around midday, Shinichi phoned home and Mitsuko answered, sounding calm and untroubled. When he tried calling again around 6:50 p.m, shortly before finishing work, there was no response. Assuming she might have stepped out or was busy, Shinichi thought little of it and made his way home. He arrived around 7:40 that evening to find the front door, normally kept locked, left open, and the house unusually dark and silent. Uneasy but unaware of what awaited him, Shinichi changed out of his work clothes into something more comfortable after stepping inside. Just then, he heard the faint cries of a baby coming from the living room at the back of the house. For a brief moment, he thought the baby might have arrived earlier than expected, but when he switched on the light, the sight before him froze him in shock. The living room floor was covered in blood, and Mitsuko lay motionless amid the chaos. At her feet, a newborn baby cried weakly. Panicked, Shinichi rushed to the kitchen to call for help, only to find the household phone missing. Desperate, he ran downstairs to a neighbour's apartment to borrow theirs, placing a call to the Nagoya City Fire Department at 7:43 p.m. to report the emergency. Emergency responders arrived quickly and rushed Mitsuko and her newborn son to Nagoya Ekisaikai Hospital in Nakagawa Ward. Tragically, Mitsuko was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The infant, a boy weighing 2,930 grams, had suffered multiple cuts to his legs and body, leaving him severely anemic and dangerously cold, with a body temperature of just 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit when he was found. Thanks to swift medical intervention, early discovery, and a blood transfusion from his father, the baby managed to survive and was discharged from the hospital on April 2nd. The investigation revealed a horrific scene. Mitsuko's abdomen had been violently cut open, and she was discovered with an electric kotatsu cord wrapped around her neck and her wrists bound behind her back. The cord was still plugged into the wall. Her umbilical cord had been severed, and the child had been delivered in the midst of the attack. Mitsuko was dressed in blue maternity wear, a sweater, a pink jumper, and black pantyhose. The brutality was further underscored by a grotesque detail. Inside her abdominal wound, investigators found a telephone receiver and a Mickey Mouse keychain. The autopsy determined that Mitsuko had died from asphyxiation caused by strangulation. Evidence suggested that the deep abdominal wound had been inflicted after she was already dead, as indicated by the limited blood flow. Investigators estimated her time of death to be between 3 and 4 p.m. Although the electric kotatsu cord was discovered wrapped around her neck, forensic analysis confirmed it had not been used to kill her, but rather placed there sometime after her death. Investigators discovered that Mitsuko had spent the early afternoon visiting with a female friend at her home, their conversation lasting until about 3 p.m. Around an hour later, a postal worker delivered a postcard to the Moriya residence and noticed nothing out of the ordinary from outside. However, Mitsuko, normally careful about collecting her mail right away, had left the postcard untouched in the mailbox when Shinichi returned that evening. Inside, the remnants of her afternoon remained undisturbed. Teacups and dishes still sitting on the kotatsu where she and her friend had last shared tea. At first, police considered Mitsuko's husband, Shinichi, as a potential suspect. However, the autopsy placed her time of death around 3 p.m, when Shinichi was verifiably at work, leading investigators to quickly rule him out. Authorities then explored other possible motives, focusing on the couple's side business selling Amway products. One theory suggested Mitsuko might have been targeted over a personal grudge linked to the business, but no evidence supported this line of inquiry. The last known person to see Mitsuko alive was a woman involved in Amway's mail order sales. She had visited Mitsuko's apartment to sell products and was served strawberries during their visit. After completing a transaction in which payment had been supplied in a wallet later found to belong to the perpetrator, the visitor and Mitsuko went together to the parking lot below the apartment. Mitsuko saw the woman off before returning home. Investigators believe the murderer took advantage of the open main gate at this time to enter the apartment and kill Mitsuko immediately after she returned. A glass container of strawberries left on the kotatsu table indicated that the attack occurred as soon as she came back inside. The Aichi Prefectural Police and Nakagawa Police Station initially suspected the crime might have been motivated by a personal grudge, as there were no clear signs of a struggle. Yet the scene showed meticulous efforts to eliminate evidence. Fingerprints had been wiped clean, no murder weapon or personal items were left behind, and Mitsuko's wallet was missing while her dresser had been rifled through. Authorities treated the case as a robbery turned homicide, theorizing that the intruder may have killed Mitsuko in a sudden, sadistic escalation during a break-in. The only physical clue recovered was a 25cm shoe print, traced to a counterfeit shoe produced by a major manufacturer in Korea or Taiwan. Although investigators could not track the shoe's distribution to a suspect, interviews produced leads about a suspicious man connected to the area. The extreme brutality of the crime prompted speculation that a juvenile might have been responsible, someone indifferent to the value of human life, yet the size of the footprints left at the scene indicated an adult, or at least someone with adult-sized feet, as high school-age children can have foot sizes comparable to adults. Around 3 p.m. on the 18th of March, a man behaving suspiciously approached a resident on the first floor of the apartment building where the crime later occurred, asking for directions to someone named Mr. Nakamura. The woman who answered explained she did not know anyone by that name and shut the door, but she noted that the man seemed uneasy and out of place. She described him as being in his 30s, roughly 165 centimetres tall, of average build with a round face and a professional office worker appearance. Investigators later confirmed that no one named Nakamura lived in the vicinity. Earlier that afternoon, a friend visiting Mitsuko's apartment reported hearing what sounded like a doorknob turning while inside, though Mitsuko assumed it was just the ventilation fan. Additional eyewitness accounts added to the sense of unease. Reports included a car idling in the apartment's parking lot, a man lurking near homes along the street, and another individual loitering west of the building for about 10 minutes. Despite these sightings, none of the information directly led to identifying the perpetrator. Despite the shocking violence of the crime, investigators were unable to identify the perpetrator, as no substantial evidence or leads remained. The statute of limitations for the case expired on March 18, 2003. In the final days before it lapsed, TV Asahi's investigative program Miraclegate TV highlighted the case and even attempted to confront a suspect, but their efforts yielded no results. The ongoing media attention and public scrutiny took a heavy toll on Mitsuko's family. Unable to cope with the relentless spotlight, her husband and their young son, alongside Shinichi's mother, relocated abroad to Hawaii in 1999, seeking peace and privacy away from the tragic case. They also brought Mitsuko's ashes with them. In July of 1960, nearly 3 decades before this case, a similarly gruesome crime occurred in Kochi Prefecture, Japan. A junior high school girl was found with her abdomen cross-cut and women's underwear placed inside her body. A 24-year-old fisherman, born in 1936, who had abducted the girl from her home, was identified as the prime suspect, but he was later discovered dead near the crime scene. Some have speculated that this earlier incident may have influenced the perpetrator of the Moriya Mitsuko case. Years later, a woman claimed online that she knew the identity of Mitsuko's killer. According to her account, in February 1990, 2 years after the murder, an unidentified man attempted to break into her home. She reported the incident to the police, but alleges her concerns were initially dismissed. The woman stated that she lived near Mitsuko's residence and that the intruder had tried to enter her home in the middle of winter wearing only a sweater. She further claimed that the Aichi Prefectural Police were aware of the perpetrator but lacked sufficient evidence to make an arrest, and that they had instead wiretapped her home. According to her, when the perpetrator later attempted to attack her, the police immediately arrested him and sought a confession. Her website even named a senior Aichi Prefectural police officer involved in the original investigation. The site, originally hosted on a Yahoo Japan account, was later moved to another platform. While the accuracy of her claims remain unverified, some observers have noted that the detailed nature of her story makes it difficult to dismiss entirely as a hoax. Even decades later, the tragic case of Moriya Mitsuko remains painfully unresolved, leaving a wound that has never fully healed for her family. The senseless brutality of her death and the unanswered questions surrounding the perpetrator continue to haunt those who remember her and the life that was so cruelly taken.